特別番組としてフィンランド合唱指揮者協会会長カリ・トゥルネンさんと前橋市長の対談の模様をお送りします。
Today, through this program, I'd like to talk with Mr. Turunen, who came to the third youth choir concert held by JCA, who is responsible as a conductor. Mr. Turunen, nice to see you.
It's good to see you as well.
Thank you very much for your wonderful performance. First of all, I can't stop telling you bravo for your wonderful performance with young choral singers, 38 singers maybe, and I shared a moving experience with other audiences. So I'm very grateful to tell you that you came from Finland and to teach the Japanese young choral singers. So first of all, I'd like to ask you about the first impression of this city.
Well, this city strikes me in two ways.
Mm-hmm.
I have not seen all of it, I have to admit, but I've seen the center, which somehow seems to revolve around the castle, which is a very beautiful place, and I think that gives the city character and beauty and structure. So that is a fine thing to have. And the second thing is that it's vast, it's huge. It seems to go on and on and on.
So you arrived at the port from Central directly by the high-speed boat.
Yes.
After that, you went to the Shirasagi Hall, which is located in the mountainous area, but they are all in the city.
It's incredible.
So yes, and I know that it is your first visit to Japan. So I'd like to ask you about your career and, if possible, about your relationship between yourself and Japan.
I am a professional choral conductor. Nowadays I'm a freelance conductor. I did teach in a music university, but now I'm just a conductor with 6 choirs.
Oh, 6 choirs.
And my relationship to Japan is, well, it's not very strong, but it's, I have some background in that. I've been very interested in Japanese culture, films, Kurosawa,
Kurosawa.
And Japanese visual art.
Visual art.
And the beauty of the objects. So I've been very intrigued by what it would be like here, and so I'm very, very glad that I was able to come here.
Yeah, and so you have many knowledge about Japan.
Well, not many, but some
knowledge. Yeah. So I'd like to ask you about the difference between what you knew about Japan, or you have the knowledge about Japan, and between what you knew and what you saw just 1 week before.
One thing is that a lot of what I thought was true. That you seem to uphold traditions very strongly. So yeah. A lot of the things that I've seen in even earlier movies are still very much, you know, the everyday life, eating together on the tatami and so on. So there's a lot that I knew, but then I was surprised by how talkative, how much the people talk and how well they talk. I mean, they clearly can hold an audience when they talk. Like your speech at the restaurant yesterday evening was excellent. I didn't understand a word, but you had the people eating from your hand. And that was a surprise, because I've thought that the Japanese would be more reserved, but they seem very talkative and open,
talkative,
at least amongst themselves.
Yes. many citizens are talkative, but some of them are not. But you know, and that is one thing what you experienced here in this city. But your music camp started at the Shirasagi Hall and in Inokura Hot Spring Onsen.
Yes.
So
yes.
you experienced on the tatami?
Yes, I slept on the tatami on a futon. I went to the onsen. We ate very traditional Japanese meals.
Japanese
and,
meal.
Which I think in many cases I would have been in a hotel, eaten fairly general Western food.
Western food.
So this was for me the best thing I could imagine.
Okay.
And the hall, the
Shirasagi
Hall was excellent.
Oh.
And we had the whole place to ourselves and could work very calmly. So all the arrangements here have been first class.
Thank you very much to say so. And the first 3 days was spared to the music camp.
Yes.
And with the young singers from all over Japan, what was your impression about them, and what made you very difficult to teach them because they don't have the relationship with each other. Just before they arrived to the city, they were gathered to hear.
You're quite right. I could see today that the group started coming together. But it's like a football team or a baseball team. That when you win, then then the group really becomes one, and it takes time. And that's you're right that took time. But in a way, that was not my worry because that just happens with time. The singers are very talented. They have beautiful voices, really strikingly beautiful voices. And they had prepared well. Even the more difficult pieces, we got through very quickly. So we could work on the real substance, the music, the forming of the music and the sound and things like this. And that makes me very glad.
You chose the choral songs from all over Europe, maybe.
Yes.
You are the Finnish conductor, but you chose not only Finnish songs, but also from England and maybe from ancient ages. What was your message to have chosen those lists for the program?
I think, in short, European tradition.
European tradition.
Which I think is such an important part of choral singing. That our roots are in that old European, the Gregorian chants, the Renaissance times. This is all where it comes from. And I wanted to give the singers a possibility to work with that, and then also to give them a little bit of different languages, different styles, different parts of Europe, because it tends to be that every country has a music of its own, a sound of its own. So I think it's good to for both the audience and the singers to experience different types of music. And I think it worked quite well. You asked me earlier about the difficulties. I think the biggest difficulty that we actually had was with singing in English.
Singing in English.
That seems to be because the Japanese singers sang Finnish really well. And that came much quicker. The English was much more problematic. So we worked really hard with that. But I was really happy about the fact that the Japanese singers could relate to Finnish music and pronounce Finnish very well.
So you think that the communication with them were not so difficult in English?
Not really. And I had a very good assistant conductor who always, Kata-san, who then always translated when there seemed to be a moment. So we
she can tell them in Japanese.
And I think that's good because then they first hear it in English and then they get a translation. So I think that's good for their skills in English.
I see. And after that, you had a rehearsal open to the public. So many music teachers from all over city of Tsu gathered, attended that rehearsal. So they were taught from your rehearsal scene about how to teach to the talented people or about what you want to tell them about the Western Europe music, maybe. After that, you came to the downtown. What was your impression about the downtown concert?
In
open air concert?
Yes. Well, there was some traffic, but I liked the audience was what touched me because they were very reactive. You could see when someone was speaking, they were going, and even when the music was, you could see that they were living along and reacting to the music, and that's nice. It's not always like that with the audiences who just sit and listen, but this was so the people seemed to really enjoy that moment, and I think it's very important not to just exist in the concert halls, but also to come out and greet the people.
Yeah. What I wanted was that to be known about this activity to the public, you know, that because it is not only for the talented singers, young boys and girls from all over the world to be taught professionally about how to teach to the students the music choral activities, but also to be known that to the public that this city is very fond of choral music, and some downtown areas songs are listened to is very good.
That is great to hear.
Okay, and so this is today's concert I'd like to mention. Of course, this hall was full of the audiences. So, but this is a little bit rare to say that the singers are not. Most of them are not related to the audiences because they came from all over Japan. But this hall was full of the audience. So maybe Mie Choral Association members and Japan Choral Association members worked very hard to let as many people as possible to be known about this activity. But you know, they were very enjoying about your
I hope
performance.
So.
They were very enjoying. And what was the impression of the concert today performance?
It went well.
It went well.
It's when the rehearsal period is as calm and smooth as this one, you don't really fear for the concert. So it was more a moment how the singers would they be very tense and anxious, or would they settle down? And I thought they settled down nicely, and I could see a lot of freedom on their faces and their bodies. So, so I enjoyed that very much.
I'm glad to hear that. And Tsu is well known as a city that has flourished with choral activities. For instance, Tsu Civic Culture Festival's choral division took place at Shirasagi Hall when you had a music camp, and more than 800 singers from 36 choral groups came together, and they gave their performance all day long on 2nd of March. So this is I consider that choral activities to be popular in this city.
That's very good to hear.
And maybe you have such kind of city in your country.
There is a few that have put more effort and energy into choral music than others, and I think it's always partly, as they say in research in England, they say follow the money. That if there is a will to put in some money to culture, culture will come. Sometimes it comes by itself, but it's also a matter of if the city council is interested, then that will generate interest. And choral music I don't think it can ever be a business. So it needs the support of city councils, arts councils in the country. And so what you're doing here is very valuable, and I hope many towns would take your initiative and be active with, because we're not talking about huge sums of money. It's more the interest and some support and showing that this is important, and you'll have choirs. People love singing, so just give them a chance.
Yes, you are right. So that your story reminds me about the responsibility or the activities held by the public sectors, of course. As a local authority, of course, we have this kind of music hall. But I would say we have several music halls in this city. So if I let these halls to be quiet, that makes nothing as an cultural activities.
Exactly.
So maybe I'd like to, what I have to do is to have a kind of the choral activity, choral concert, or as a classical concert, or sometimes jazz concert, or the dancing performances, and sometimes karaoke concert will be fine. Because citizens, people can enjoy those activities, those concerts. And may I ask you to give us the future of the culture music activities in Japan, or some especially choral activities. I know that you don't have enough experience to look at those activities in this city or in Japan, but you felt something through this week.
And I've talked to people all the time. And I think it's clear that Japan is investing in the right thing, which is school choirs, youth choirs, because this is where the singers come from. And I feel that there is a very strong choral movement in Japan, a very personal characteristic, that it has its own personality. It's not just a copied, but it's a very Japanese choir movement with its own values, its own goals, aims. So I think if there is a continued support for this singing, and also if your composers keep writing new music for choir, then there is it looks good for Japanese choral singing. You have the talent, you have the system, and now it's really just sustaining the system and trying to possibly make Japanese choirs a little bit more visible worldwide as well. That we don't perhaps see them enough. We don't hear Japanese music enough. But that could be the next step then, to spread out. But it seems that the Japanese choral movement is in very good hands.
Thank you very much. Your message gave us the good vision of the future for those activities. So let me conclude this interview from your message to the citizens of this city about what you experienced and what you felt about this city, and maybe I'd like you to finish this week with a lot of experience held with those young singers who will go back to all over Japan with the enough good experience with you, maybe. Please.
I hope so. It has been a great week here in Tsu. I've loved everything. Even yesterday's weather was a special plus, and I think I saw the first cherry blossoms.
So congratulations.
Yes, so it couldn't be better. And my experience with the choir is, it's always when you work with young people, you're really blown away by their energy and once you get through that little bit of a core that they have, then such beauty comes out. And these people had very beautiful voices, and I think they also have very beautiful souls. So I go away enriched both by Japan and this wonderful choir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tsurunen, for coming with your special, talented knowledge to be brought to this city. Thank you very much. And please enjoy your stay, the rest of this day. Thank you very much, Mr. Tsurunen.
Thank you.